Did you know that the world is going to be a completely different place in the future? Hi everyone, I'm Bamford, and I want to share with you some big ideas that I think will change your life and your wealth for the better in 2022. Next year, things are going to change a lot because change is inevitable. The good news though is there's still time for you to take advantage of these trends and capitalize on the positive impact for your wealth in 2022. So let me tell you what I think is coming up. This video is inspired by an article on LinkedIn News UK. I'll link to that in the description so you can have a read if you like. And I'm not going to talk about all 20 of the big ideas presented in that article, but I will run through a handful of the ones that get me the most excited and also think about some of the implications for your wealth and for your life next year. First up, according to this article, we're going to enter a golden age for vaccines. And I like starting with this one because earlier today I drove a few miles up the road to get my booster jab. Unlike the two vaccinations I had originally back in the summer, today's jab was a high-tech one. So yes, I've had the one that some people have described as experimental gene therapy, and other, more sane and rational people understand is based on messenger RNA or mRNA. These vaccines, and I had Moderna today, they teach the cells in our body how to make a protein that will trigger an immune response inside our bodies. I'm excited about mRNA vaccines, and so it appears is Brendan Borrell, who's author of The First Shots, the epic rivalries and the heroic science behind the race for the coronavirus vaccine. Borrell told LinkedIn News that there's much more to come, following the record-breaking speed at which vaccines were developed to fight COVID-19, saying, in the short term, researchers will continue to test more cost-effective, tried-and-true protein-based vaccines that could be delivered to poorer countries with less onerous storage requirements. Longer term, research teams are hoping to develop a pan-coronavirus shot that won't just protect people against all the coronavirus variants, COVID variants, but potentially other types of nasty coronaviruses as well, such as Middle East Respiratory Syndrome or MERS. Medical science, it appears, is going to get faster. Jeremy Farrar, who's director of London-based charitable foundation Wellcome Trust, told LinkedIn that scientists and politicians are targeting a 100-day timeline from lab to jab. He thinks that could come down to 7 days, with a global rollout within 30 days. Now, I've said in videos before that more global pandemics within our lifetimes seem very likely, so more often, probably more severe. That's what the science is telling us. And our best hope of surviving these global pandemics, hopefully without any significant disruption to our daily lives, that best hope comes from medical science. So bring on these speedy vaccines. The second prediction is easier commuting or no commuting at all. And this one's timely because just today, the government's announced a 3.8% increase in regulated rail fares. That comes into force next March, and it's in line with price inflation. They're using RPI, Retail Price Index inflation, for the 12 months to July, albeit they're not applying their usual 1 percentage point addition, and they're delaying the price hike. It's not coming into force in the new year, it's coming into force in March. That said, it's still going to hurt commuters financially. The cost of a Brighton to London season ticket will be £5,302. Liverpool to Manchester, £2,865. And Neath to Cardiff, £1,922 a year. We all recognise that the world of work is changing and has changed for the better during the pandemic. Remote working, previously the realm of pretty radical bosses, that's become the norm. We've proven it works. Work at home, work in the office, work in a local hub or a local cafe. It doesn't matter where you work anymore. And you certainly don't need to blow £5,300 a year on a train season ticket. One to simply pack yourself into a carriage with other dead-eyed commuters, spreading nasty germs and grumbling about delays and cancellations. Ryan Anderson, who's Vice President of Global Research at Miller Knoll, said that 93% of knowledge workers want the freedom to work flexibly. Even with offices reopening, and I guess this was pre-Omicron, people are showing up to the office later and leaving earlier. In other words, they're not crazy enough anymore to participate in rush hour. However, and apologies in advance for my pronunciation, Marco de Brommelstroet from the University of Amsterdam urges us to think bigger, saying, perhaps we should discard the commute as we know it altogether. To improve quality of life, we need to become less dependent on mobility and more committed to local proximity. And I can see this happening. Sure, working from home is not for everyone. Even I'm getting a bit bored of life in my shed quarters. I'm seeking out more opportunities to work, at least occasionally, with my colleagues in the real world, in real life. But commuting into a city seems absolutely nuts when you can get that same work done just as effectively in your home village or town. Now, WeWork didn't work. But local serviced offices, businesses sharing multiple local office spaces with other businesses, I can see that happening on a much more widespread basis next year. This next one was number 5 in the article, and it suggests that we start looking at algae and other blue foods as we address the rising level of the global population. 10 billion people due to live on planet Earth by 2050, especially if that vaccine technology continues to improve. And of course, climate change, that's going to hurt our global food supply. So a solution might come from so-called blue foods. We're talking fish, aquatic plants, mussels, and algae. Sander Vandenberg, who's a researcher at Wageningen University and Research, said, even though aquaculture production has continued to grow in recent decades, the potential of the world's seas and oceans to provide healthy and sustainable food remains largely unused. Now, according to Vandenberg, 2022 could be a pivotal year for blue foods, where we start seeing them more readily available from local grocers. Would you add algae to your diet? Now, I'm pretty sure our diets will need to change in the future, with meat, for example, becoming a luxury item rather than a staple, and I'd be pretty happy to eat algae, I have to say. Continuing the theme of changes to the world of work, Adam Grant, one of my favourite authors, got several of his books just up here, he explains that talk about the Great Resignation, where millions of people have rethought the role that work plays in their lives. More people want to do a great job, but in less time. So that old belief that long hours equals commitment is being increasingly thrown out of the window. A 4-day work week is likely to become the norm. Now, that's clearly going to have some financial implications. If you work 20% fewer hours, should you receive a 20% pay cut? And how would that stack up with your household budget? Of course, if we're no longer commuting into cities, that saves a huge expense. And the ability to work remotely also offers us a great deal of freedom in terms of where we choose to live. Could you move to a cheaper and probably more attractive part of the country with a better standard of living if you no longer need to be within striking distance for a commute to a fixed location workplace? The next one I've picked is very much wealth related. Number 9 in the article says that self-driving money will transform our financial well-being. David Breer, who's CEO of 11FS, believes the next chapter of wealth tech will be what he describes and calls self-driving money. So he talks about a world where banking is so contextual that it's woven into the very fabric of your day-to-day life instead of you being a bottleneck for financial decisions. Everyday spending and your financial products holdings can be optimized to ensure that you're always spending efficiently. Your savable and investable amounts can be maximized to ensure the best possible financial returns, and any long-term debt can be managed and reduced. Breer says your device becomes your private banker in your pocket, and just like Tesla's self-driving car, I can see providers' algorithms getting you from A to B to C with minimal intervention. This is banks moving from providing you dumb products to intelligent services that transform not only your wallet, but your wealth and health. It's a brilliant vision and one I would love to see materialise, but I'm a little bit sceptical. To date, so-called robo-advice has been pretty poor, mostly automated online product sales rather than true financial planning. Certainly a long way from this vision of self-driving money, but I've no doubt that we'll get there at some stage in the future. There's already a few online tools and providers out there who are doing some really interesting things with financial automation, helping us irrational humans make better decisions with our cash. The next one up, which is number 10 on this list, is actually a bit scary. Big tech will rival or even supersede government on the global stage. We're talking here about the likes of Meta, Google, Amazon, Alibaba. Huge doesn't even come close to describing the wealth and the power and influence of these organisations, or how deeply entwined they've become in our daily lives. Ian Bremmer, president at the Eurasia Group, says that these corporate giants are increasingly acting as sovereigns. They're rivaling states for influence over our lives. And yes, I absolutely get the irony of me saying about this on a video on YouTube, a platform of course owned by Google. Bremmer says as more of the world becomes digitised, these companies control over the goods and services needed to run a modern society, including election integrity, telecommunication networks, cloud infrastructure, logistics capabilities, payment systems, space exploration, even national security, will deepen. See, I told you it was quite a scary one. Could we see an increasing tension between corporates and governments in 2022? We've already seen recently US President Joe Biden launch and gain widespread backing for his global minimum corporate tax. That's designed to stop these giants from hiding their profits and paying less tax because they use low tax jurisdictions. How much will government be able to slow down or even stop the pervasive nature of big tech in our lives? Now, I suspect we've got power to do more as well, opting out of certain online retailers or social media platforms platforms, but will we actually do it? Number 12 on the list is especially relevant to the world of wealth, and indeed to our approach to sustainable investing at my business, Informed Choice. Now, apparently in 2022, the sustainable investing backlash will arrive. ESG, or environmental, social, and governance investing, that's become big business in recent years, but not everyone is very happy with it, especially businesses, firms that place profit above people. They're looking for any opportunity to attack that particular philosophy. As ESG becomes a hygiene factor for both private and institutional investors, there are genuine questions about the definitions being used, about the standards being deployed. Hugh Van Steenis, who is senior advisor at the Swiss bank UBS, talking in the Financial Times, writes, "We are heading for a new phase of climate-aligned investing. Investors will increasingly be able to construct comparable metrics on carbon footprints throughout the entire value chain and across the whole portfolio." And for me, it's this approach to data that's going to clean up the sustainable investing market. We've already invested in Informed Choice in a quality research from a firm called Worthstone. So there's no greenwashing taking place within our portfolios. I'm confident of that. But not everyone works to that same high standard. 2022 and beyond will be all about accountability from investors towards company directors. Greenwashing will become increasingly hard to pull off because you won't be able to fool the markets by calling a practice sustainable unless you can back up that claim with verifiable data. And then another prediction, this is directly linked to our wealth, that buy now, pay later will challenge the supremacy of credit cards. In recent years, we've seen buy now, pay later rise extraordinarily fast. It gives a new buying option to millions of people who have limited access to credit. There's no credit check, there's no interest to pay, unless of course you're late with your payments and then you pay through the nose. Buy now, pay later has already benefited from our shift in shopping habits away from brick and mortar retailers to online. But Carrie Schwab Pomeratz, who's president and board chair at the Charles Schwab Foundation, says, with the proliferation of BNPL, it will be critical for consumers to stay educated about the risks associated with financing their purchases in this way. If you aren't careful, BNPL can seriously damage your bottom line. So it's important to keep track of your payment due dates, understand it doesn't help you grow your credit score, and not to overspend. I'll finish with this one. The LinkedIn article also finishes with it. It's a silly prediction that our cities will start to run on crypto. If you've watched my video, and I'll link it up here, a recent video about the Bitcoin city being built in El Salvador, you'll know my thoughts on this stuff. So Nick van der Voort, who is CEO of Metamundo and DAO Builder, said the number of organizations that will adopt crypto to address public challenges will grow exponentially. Here's the thing on this one. I love the idea that the blockchain could facilitate trusted transactions. And Lord only knows we need more trust in our governments, our local authorities right now. But while crypto remains a haven for scammers and speculators, that true utility from blockchain, I think, will remain elusive. There are some interesting examples in this LinkedIn article, including Miami, who struck a deal with the non-profit City Coins that allows users who mine new tokens to earn part of the cryptocurrency they generate and donate the rest to a city of their choosing. And Mayor Hillary Sheev of Reno, Nevada, is proposing a plan that includes selling non-fungible tokens, NFTs, to support public art and using decentralized autonomous organizations to sell crypto-based stakes of city-owned properties to investors. But we have to drive the scammers and the speculators out of the crypto market first, before any of these ideas can become truly viable. What do you make of these predictions for 2022? And will you do anything differently next year to preserve or enhance your wealth based on the way in which the world is changing? I'd love to hear your thoughts on this one. Leave me a comment below. And if you found this video useful, please do hit the like button. Make sure you subscribe for more. Thank you for watching this video. Until next time, I'm Martin Bamford. And remember, when it comes to your money, the more you know, the faster it can grow.